Once again, you are watching, listening to the Paul McGUIRE Report. I'm Paul McGUIRE, and on today's program, wherever you are in America, wherever you are on planet Earth, we're going to macro focus and then we're going to micro focus into a deep dive. I know that's a lot of metaphor type language, but we're going to go into a deep dive and examine a number of things regarding human perception, specifically the resurgence of interest in UFOs, alien entities. Where do these aliens, these so-called aliens, come from? Where do they come from? Are they extraterrestrial beings from another planet that flew here sometime, 2,000, 3,000, 7,000 years ago? They came here, some say, by UFOs, UFO technology. They landed their UFOs allegedly in the accepting climate of planet Earth. And some say, like the author of Chariots of the Gods, some say that these aliens, these ETs, seeded human females, and it is their genetic interbreeding, alien DNA interbreeding with human female DNA, which has produced the human race as we know it all around us. So this stuff is at an apex of interest right now. There's a lot of people who want to know about this. I've been reviewing this subject off and on for a long time. I never specialized in it because there's so much else to talk about, but it's important to keep it in your wheelhouse, so to speak. Now, the question is, who and what are these ETs? You remember, or you've seen, I wasn't alive when it happened, probably most of you weren't alive either, but in 1948 in New Mexico, supposedly a UFO crashed in Roswell, New Mexico, and this UFO supposedly contained a number of aliens or ETs. Now, the first time I saw a picture of the alleged ET or alien that supposedly crashed with the UFO in Roswell, New Mexico, I had to laugh. And I'm even laughing now at the recollection of it. I had to laugh because it was just so absurd. It was just so cheesy. The alien that they said was an alien looked like a cheesy, very low-budget Hollywood science fiction film where they got a bargain basement set designer or costume designer or whatever, and they put together this pseudo and every time I think of it, I laugh because the alien they depicted and they got so excited about was so absolutely cheesy. It was so staged. It was so amateurish. So I'll tell you what happened to me. I was very interested in the topic since being a young boy. I was reading books by Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, and others in the golden age of science fiction, and these guys and others wrote a lot of books about UFOs and aliens and all kinds of stuff. So I had an avid interest in the topic, a huge interest in the topic. But when I came across this so-called proof that aliens had landed on planet Earth, it just didn't sit well with me. It looked like such a phony fake thing that literally it caused me to reject and it caused me to disengage from this area of research for a while. I just couldn't get into it because every time somebody would talk about the proof of aliens and they'd cite Roswell, I couldn't take it seriously for a long, long time. Now, fortunately, I came across other sources of research. And and this goes back a long time ago, but all the other sources of research, for me anyway, didn't emphatically prove anything. In fact, I had more questions than I did have answers. And I'll give you an example. Well, we had the various military secret projects designed to allegedly smother any possibility of disclosure, which is the big operative word right now. Disclosure, disclosure. Well, I don't think, this is my personal opinion, unless we have a full-blown Operation Bluebeam, and by Operation Bluebeam I mean, of course, a staged, theatrical type alien event where the aliens can be seen in the skies in their giant UFOs or their UFOs or maybe a UFO mothership, and the aliens are descending upon planet Earth in kind of a giant invasion, like a giant invasion depicted in the movie Invaders from Mars, that was based on the science fiction writer not George Orwell, the science fiction writer H.G. Wells in his sci-fi novel Invaders from Mars. So the thing was this: the Princeton Radio University propaganda project. That means the official government-financed, Rockefeller-financed propaganda scientific research department, financed and set up at Princeton University, was conducting many experiments in what they called, not me, what they called radio propaganda. And they were avid researchers in propaganda, specifically media propaganda, specifically radio propaganda. Because when they conducted their biggest experiment, which was known as Invaders from Mars, this was an experiment that capitalized upon what was then known as radio theater. Now, for a lot of you, that means nothing. It didn't mean anything to me for a while until during the course of my research many years ago, somebody sat down with us and played us. We sat back in their living room. We dimmed the lights like they did in the days of radio theater. And this person had a collection of vinyl record famous radio theater dramas that were done. And I had never heard this stuff before. I hadn't even heard the title of radio theater, basically. And it blew my mind because it was really good stuff. In fact, the radio theater stuff that I listened to, I think one was called The Green Lantern and all these other mystery, spy, novel type stuff. And what was interesting was that the writing and the acting, and back then they used big time actors to play roles in radio theater. But I found that the acting and the writing and the drama was far beyond. Now this may be a shock to some of you, but you know what? You got to give credit where credit was due. The radio drama theater of those days and years, in my opinion, vastly excelled, vastly surpassed the second-rate, amateurish, rely on sensation, rely on sex, rely on violence garbage that is produced today and is called episodic TV and theatrical feature films. I mean, most of it is written by total amateurs and stinks to high heaven. It's just bad stuff all the way around. But you listen in on, and I thought that there was no way I could be entertained by listening to a simulated radio broadcast called radio theater. But I was gripped. Even though there was nothing to watch visually, it was more compelling than all the visual stuff that I don't watch. I'm looking for something to watch on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. And inevitably, if I'm lucky, and I don't believe in luck, but if I'm lucky, I'll have to sift through like 20 or 25 or more trailers, if they supply them, or scenes from all these episodic TV shows and feature films and stuff that they're offering. And I can't, I mean, it's so bad and so garbagey that I can't take it. So I don't watch it usually. So with the radio drama, it was very compelling. So anyway, Princeton Radio University Radio Propaganda Project. They hired at the time one of the biggest, most authoritative actors there was, Orson Welles, no relationship to H.G. Wells, and he starred in it. And they rolled the radio drama Invaders from Mars out, and it played in just about every radio market across the United States, live. So it was a huge, they had a massive audience. Don't be fooled, the audience back then was far bigger than the audiences that attract these episodic TV shows and these feature films today. The radio drama Invaders from Mars had a mega audience, if you will. So they gave a short disclaimer saying that this was purely fiction, science fiction. It was not real, and it was a dramatic episodic series on radio drama or radio theater. So they gave that disclaimer. Nobody paid attention to the disclaimer, and America went berserk. People were crashing their cars. They were grabbing guns and ammunition. They kept hearing these reports over and over again from all across the country of men and women screaming in tears, etc., who claimed to have seen the aliens land, you know, in their state or town or remote area or whatever. They claimed to have seen the aliens, and they claimed to have seen these giant robotic insect-looking vehicles that the aliens were using to move across the face of the earth. And it was so well done and so well acted that it was terrifying. And that's what the Radio Propaganda Project wanted to experiment with. They wanted to see what would happen when you ramped up the propaganda and created an artificial reality about invaders from the planet Mars, armed and dangerous Martian invaders who came to Earth through UFOs, and then they begin killing and abducting people, etc., etc. So all of America was terrified. There was hysteria in the air, and hysteria and fear swept across America like a psychological contagion. It just freaked everybody out. And it shook up America to such a degree, and some people tried to be angry when the dust settled, but they couldn't be angry because the producers of Invaders from Mars gave them a disclaimer. They gave them a heads up that this is a fictional thing that we're staging. It's not real. Okay, so that, by the way, was probably one of the biggest psyops or psychological operations in human history. And it was conducted by a convergence of Rockefeller Foundation money, the Princeton University Radio Propaganda Project, a propaganda psychologist named, I believe his name was Henry Cantrell, who later became the head of CBS, the all-seeing eye, and so, of the logo. And so, when you read my book, A Prophecy of the Future of America, which you should get if you don't have it, I go into detail about the entire background and the purpose and the hidden agenda of the Princeton University Radio Propaganda Project. Now, propaganda is played in our nation today, and it's played all over the world, over social media, the internet, radio, TV, video, you name it. It's no longer, flag waving, and they don't call themselves the Princeton Radio University Propaganda Project. It has more covert names. It's interwoven in the messaging of various so-called trusted mainstream and alternative media platforms. But nevertheless, the sophisticated, highly scientific illusion pageant, known as, today we could call it social media technological propaganda platforms, it still works. And so there have been many people who theorize that the intelligence agencies, they have a secret program, which I disclose when it was declassified. I disclosed it in my book, A Prophecy of the Future of America. And this secret intelligence agency project is known as Operation Bluebeam. And Operation Bluebeam is hypothetically, one day you'll look up at the skies, probably at night, maybe in the daytime, you'll look up at the skies and you will see a full-on alien invasion. You'll see the aliens, you'll see the UFOs, you'll see the motherships, and they'll be converging on a takeover landing of planet Earth and giving an ultimatum to the citizens and the governments of Earth. This kind of scenario has been portrayed in numerous movies like Independence Day and many other movies. So they're going to give an ultimatum to the governments and the people of planet Earth, which will consist of a demand that mankind forsake nationalism and embrace an alien-controlled, a globalist, elite-controlled, one-world government, one-world religion, one-world economic system. Now, I have to laugh, just on the basis of what I told you. What do you think the game plan is? What do you think the agenda is? Well, you know what the agenda is. The globalist elite, the people that really run the world, are having many problems in trying to put together their new world order, which they now call the Great Reset. And the New World Order, or the Great Reset, is in reality the New World Order. But the New World Order has a big branding problem because it's perceived by the public and the masses as a failure, as a kind of global totalitarian regime, and it's not welcomed, and nor is it liked. So people like Klaus Schwab and others of the globalist elite, the WEF, the UN, the United Nations, have rebranded their New World Order, and of course it's called the Great Reset. So the purpose of this alien invasion is to solidify and hard sell and implement and install a global government, global religion, a global religion, by the way, which incorporates the reality of aliens. Let me repeat that, because this is probably the most explosive. This is what I'm talking to you about now, and I humbly ask you to really pay attention. What I'm talking to you about now is what we could call real disclosure versus the fake disclosure you're hearing about everywhere in documentary films like Disclosure Day, like Steven Spielberg's, maybe you think, Steven Spielberg's upcoming sci-fi movie, soon to be released, Disclosure Day. And then you have the Disclosure Day documentary. And talk of disclosure is everywhere. But here's the bottom line. People are waiting for the government to disclose the truth regarding aliens. They want the files on the aliens and the UFOs open to the public and declassified. Now that's certainly a legitimate request. Of course it's a legitimate request. What are you hiding? But we have to remember that disclosure is not merely the disclosure of one category of information, such as, and I'm not degrading its necessity and I'm not impugning its importance. This is a very important thing to disclose. The truth about aliens and UFOs and ETs and life on Earth and the rest of that stuff. It's very important. So disclosure is needed. But let's remember, it's not only disclosure about the category of UFOs, aliens, and ETs. Real disclosure is telling the truth, disclosing the truth about numerous life and death categories, numerous super important, currently classified information that is vitally needed to be disclosed. So when we're talking about, yes, it is important to disclose all the information about aliens, ETs, UFOs, etc. But it is also extremely important to disclose the full truth, the complete truth about all the other adjacent categories of information and other categories of currently classified information. All this other stuff needs to be disclosed also. What do I mean? Full disclosure about all the various PSYOPs, or psychological operations programs, and admission of the real truth about Operation Bluebeam, MK Ultra, and all the other classified. And then they claim to declassify the information, but they're just playing games because they're still hiding the truth. That isn't disclosure, that's a counterfeit of disclosure. So, when we talk about UFOs, ETs, and aliens, there needs to be a disclosure of the current, the past, and the future plans regarding all of these Operation Bluebeam PSYOPs, where it may be aliens, it may be a simulation, a technological simulation of aliens invading planet Earth. It may be a technological simulation, because this is in their secret plans. They've already released some of this stuff. A secret plan revealing of the currently largely classified plans concerning a simulated technological creation of a simulation of Jesus Christ the Messiah returning to planet Earth, riding a white horse, and behind him are the armies of heaven. There's a secret plan to simulate, kind of like you would create a holographic reality. You would project a synthetic reality using technology or things like CGI. And if you've seen the latest and the greatest of innovative, cutting-edge technology that simulates or counterfeits reality, it's mind-blowing. Like I said to you, I saw a real-life simulation on the internet, and it consisted of a whole bunch of kids, either in college or high school, sitting in the giant indoor basketball court, you know, where they have the seats that pull out for students and parents to sit in the seats. So it was some kind of assembly, and all the students on the left and the right were sitting in their seats. And all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere, a kind of opening, like a giant portal appears, and this massive orca whale jumps through the portal, coming from, it looked like another dimension, and then all this splashing water came with him, splashing on the floor, and then the orca whale bounces on the wooden basketball court and flips around and stuff, and the orca whale and the punch in the dimensional hole is so realistic. It's like it is beyond the term special effects. And so there's a technology that has been largely hidden from us, and that is CGI and other manufactured reality technologies have come such a long, long way, baby, that they're beyond lifelike. They're super lifelike. They don't have that, you know, dumb look. They're larger than life, and they're vividly realistic. So there's a lot of things that you and I see regularly on the internet, regularly in the media, TV, video, and other things. We are regularly right now seeing all kinds of images, videos, of all kinds of things that are totally realistic, larger than life, perfectly real on every capacity. But the fact of the matter is, what we are seeing with our eyes, what we believe absolutely is true reality. We believe with all our hearts that we're seeing something totally real. But in fact, what we're seeing and believing as real is really the highest grade CGI top technology. It's artificial intelligence, AI technology, creating a totally lifelike, believable alternative reality, synthetic reality, or counterfeit reality, or whatever you want to call it.